This series of training videos is brought to you by the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency and the Irrigation Training and Research Center of Cal Poly State University San Luis Obispo in order to assist growers with a new Irrigation Allocation Index program. This video will provide an overview of the differences between the appearance of the old application and the new application. We will cover the details on how to answer the questions on the new application, and finally, we will go through a detailed set of answers specific to main season strawberries. Let's begin. Here you can see the first part of the form on the old application. Most of you have seen this form and are used to the format for the data to be entered. The calculation for the old program was based on irrigation efficiency. Now compare this to the new application. If you notice, it looks a lot like the old one. It was designed so that the procedures for growers to fill out the new applications would change as little as possible. The primary difference is the calculation that is done for the last step. Rather than calculating the irrigation efficiency, the new form calculates the Irrigation Allowance Index. On the new application, the first step is to select your ETO zone. If you are not sure which zone your operation is in, check this map with the 3 different zones, which you can find on page 4 of the application. Growers should be able to find their farms in relation to key landmarks such as the Camarillo Airport and SOMIS. The second step is to identify the year type for precipitation. The year type will have been selected by the FCGMA at the end of the calendar year based on the precipitation data that was collected by the 3 SIMIS stations within the GMA boundaries. It may be that different zones might be experiencing different year types. For example, Zone 1 might be a dry year, Zone 2 might be a typical year, and Zone 3 might be a dry year. It will depend on the data collected for each zone. When growers are asked to fill out their forms each December, the GMA will have already published the year type. The data entry format for the ETO zone and the precipitation year type looks like this. You will be asked for your ETO zone and your year type. The fourth step is to have each grower provide their applied water data from wells and other water sources. The applied water table on the new form is exactly the same as the form for the old program. The grower then uses this table provided on page 3 of the application to look up their zone and year type and match it with their crop type to find their allowance value. The table value for main season strawberries in this example would be 3.3 acre-feet per acre, assuming Zone 1 and a dry year. The next step is to fill in the table with the information that was just collected. Crop category, number of APN or assessor parcel number, acres, and irrigation allowance per acre from the new IAI program chart. Multiply the number of acres by the allowance value to determine the total irrigation allowance. One thing that is not on the chart is an exemption for crops that are not grown year-round. For example, sod is only out in the field for about half a year. For cases such as this, the grower will need to multiply the value by the fraction of the total year that the crop is grown. For example, for a sod crop that is grown for 6 months, or half a year, the grower would take his or her annual allowance and multiply it by 0.5. There are several crops like this that will have to be handled on a case-by-case basis. The last step on the form is to calculate the Irrigation Allowance Index by dividing the water applied by the total irrigation allowance. Ideally, this value is less than 1.0. If the value is greater than 1.0, the grower has exceeded the allocation. Let's go through an example using main season strawberries. The key to a strawberry field evaluation is to make sure to evaluate the main season strawberries differently than the off-season strawberries. Main season strawberries are typically not double cropped. Off-season or summer strawberries are often double cropped with celery or sod. For this example, let's take a look at an example strawberry grower using actual data from a grower in 2009. Using the old form, this grower calculated their irrigation efficiency. As you can see, the result of the evaluation showed an irrigation efficiency value of 387%. The old program stated that as long as the grower had a value greater than 80% for their irrigation efficiency, then the grower was within the water allocation requirements. However, this value is artificially high, since it is impossible to have an irrigation efficiency greater than 100%. Here is what the same information looks like on the new form. As you can see, the table and format look almost identical to the old program form. The water allocation was found from the new IAI table. This grower is located in Zone 1, and the precipitation year for 2009 was classified as a dry year. Therefore, the allocation value for that year for main season strawberries was 3.3 acre-feet per acre. Using 3.3 acre-feet per acre combined with 80 acres, the grower's total irrigation allowance was 264 acre-feet. That year, this grower applied about 72 acre-feet of water. Using the new calculations, this grower's irrigation allowance index value is 0.27. Remember, our target index value is 1.0 or below. This grower is well below the target value. Note that this may indicate that the water allocation formula may have allocated too much water, and this base value may need to be adjusted in the future. This video has provided an overview of the differences between the appearance of the old application and the new application. We covered the details on how to answer the questions on the new application, and we went through a detailed set of answers specific to main season strawberries. As mentioned in previous videos, many variables such as soil type, wind, and humidity are already accounted for in the allowance values under the new program. The base ETO values were determined by examining a decade of weather data in the region, as correlated to crop water use during the same time period for the different crop types. Extra water was added in for different zones based on each area's salinity management needs, frequency of Santa Ana winds, or susceptibility to frost. The numbers used in the program represent the best possible estimate of plant water needs based on the data available and the most up-to-date modeling techniques. For more information on how the values were developed, please refer to the full reports available on the FCGMA website. Ideally, all or at least most growers will end up with values around 0.6 or 0.8. It may be that after a few years of program implementation, the numbers will be re-evaluated for accuracy based on results from growers. Some may turn out to be too low, while others may be a bit too high. Additionally, there may be some special cases where growers may need to contact the FCGMA and have their individual numbers adjusted based upon their specific conditions. Also remember that for growers with fields in the Las Posas Basin, the GMA board has set an allocation limit of 4.0 for all crops, even if the values listed in the table for Zone 3 are above that threshold. This concludes this video for the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency's Irrigation Efficiency Program. Thank you for taking the time to go through the material. If you have any further questions, please contact the staff at the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency.